So, hi guys. I have to make a video because the government gave me lots of money to make a video about who I am and how I create art. So, here it is. I'm a humanitarian, I'm an artist, a photographer, a strange human. I'm Aydin, a humanitarian artist. So, I call myself a humanitarian artist. Now, you must ask yourself, why do I even call myself that? Or how did I even come up with that? And it's so basic. I'm an artist, I'm a humanitarian artist. I know you're hoping for a more in depth understanding of that, but it's as simple as that. You see, working in the humanitarian world, there are so many things that you can't translate to people who haven't witnessed or lived with violence. And I want to understand how art can bring light into darkness. It's so strange how to correlate that, but to art is used so you could understand the ununderstandable. In short, art could do the impossible, which is create a narrative that most people will never understand. Feelings, pain, suffering, presented in a way where anyone in the world could be like, oh, this makes sense. I feel something, I sense something. And working in the humanities, seeing violence and brutality, I need to find a narrative that connected those people toward the world, almost becoming a bridge. And and I gotta be honest, there's also like a karmic ideology to this too. Again, I left Iran as a child. My parents ran away, fleeing a war to become refugees in Canada. I had an opportunity to change my life for something better. And I kind of want to return that back to communities who did not have the same privilege that I had. Again, that's how the whole humanities and art get imbued into each other to become a humanitarian artist. Now, I've been a humanitarian artist for, I think, over a decade. I've been jumping from hotspot to hotspots for as long as I can imagine. From Afghanistan, RDC, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, she's recently Cameroon. The list is long. And my goal wasn't to just go to these places to take advantage of people who are suffering. I was actually building projects via Foundation 64 for these communities. And by helping them set up projects that benefited them in the long term, I created art projects with them, with their voice, their stories that gave back and supported them. In short, art that actually makes a difference. And there's one thing I noticed throughout all of them, all these in the organizations, countries, communities that I lived with and worked with. Even the ones that were in pain and suffering had something so much similar to what we have here right now. It's that we all hope for a better tomorrow. You hope for a better tomorrow, specifically now during COVID time. Yet, everybody hopes for that. And that concept of hope is international and we all have it. And I want to always build in the relations of that hope exists no matter how dark environments are. What drove me to a career of arts and photography? It's a complex and strange and long story. I'll make it very short because I don't want to bore you guys. But in short, it was arts and photography was a way for me to get away from violence and gangs. I grew up in Montreal, a little rebellious child who found ways of breaking into houses, stealing cars, and for some odd reason, this tool calmed me down. Also, it was very strange because, again, I analyze this now, but I came to Montreal as a refugee. And I guess I had a bunch of PTSDs I didn't deal with from growing up in a war zone or being born in a war zone. Well, via camera, I found a way out of violence, out of gangs, and strangely into the art world. And what intrigued me about a camera wasn't itself the taking pictures left and right. It was more capturing feelings. You know, capturing someone. Like if I frame someone, what am I framing? Who's that person? Who's that individual? What do they like? What do they love? That intrigued me more than actually capturing anything. It was understanding that curiosity, curiosity of understanding people by utilizing a camera. Now, and art opens up a huge door of curiosity because art becomes like a narrative where you get to find hope and stories and understand other cultures without reading like encyclopedias about it. You just look at it and you imbued by it. And last point, something that attracted me about a camera was a basic camera. It's very simple as an object. Its purpose is just to capture light. In short, this is whole box of darkness and you press a button, light comes in. And just like that, that darkness is filled with a beautiful image. There's something romantic and beautiful about that context because, and I'll tell you guys more if you follow through with the story, how is it correlated to humanities. Now, why am I a humanitarian? Oh my god, that is a... I don't know, man. I just grew up being thrown from violence to violence to violence, and I was good capturing and being in the moments where people were suffering and people trusted me with their suffering. I wasn't always fond of that because I think journalistic media takes advantage of that. That's why I tended more towards art. But I started working in humanitarian organizations first to create visuals for them and then trying to understand and doing research with communities who are struggling with violence and war and building up projects with them, for them, that benefited them. And again, that curiosity. How do people adapt with violence, with war? It just kind of build. I had to build from that because working with them fed into my creativity, that fed into understanding myself via understanding them. I hope I'm not losing you too much up to now. On one of my assignments, I was sent to DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. There, I fell upon an orphanage, Orphanage Bumi. And this is strange because orphanages are not made to be beautiful places. Like it's horrible I'm saying, but they're places where children have lost their innocence. There's an orphanage is called an orphanage for a reason. They were abandoned. They're fleeing violence. The parents are gone. And this was the first orphanage that I stepped into that was more like a garden for children. I mean, the laughter, the smiles, it did not feel a place where children had lost their innocence. It just felt like a school, a kindergarten. I don't know. And the more I walked around and I explored, the more I was impressed by what I was seeing. What made it unique was that this environment, Bumi, was not just an orphanage. It was a school, a shelter, a hospital, a kindergarten, a playground, everything. Everything so the orphans there never grow up as just orphans. They just grow up as kids. I was mesmerized. I was like, what is this place? Where is this utopic place that I need to learn more from? And I asked the founder, Maman Thérèse, if I could move in and try to explore all of this place. A bit more about Maman Thérèse. Maman Thérèse wanted to help the kids in the street. We're talking like decades ago. She was a nurse. She saw kids suffering, abandoned in the streets of the DRC. She had a purpose. These were children that her community had just abandoned. So every night she will go and take care of them. Night after night after night. Now you gotta understand how dangerous this is. This is DRC, violence, abuse, war, civil war. The list is long. And her husband, at the same time, as much he was trying to like protect her, Papa Lucien, he was frightened for her. And every night he would try to like make her change her mind. She wouldn't have any. She had to go help these kids. So eventually Papa Lucien just gave up. And he's like, okay, you want to do this? Fine. They opened an orphanage. And together, they built an orphanage that for the past 30 years, we're talking 30 years, they've been taking care of the children that the DRC has abandoned. Instead of actually going to the street, they bring them to a sustainable environment where they get to grow to adulthood so they can have a future. Also, side notes, Papa Lucien gave up being a priest to marry the love of his life. But again, I feel this is another story for another time. We'll get on that later on. Okay, so going back to the orphanage movie, I need to understand how all of this was coming together. I want to understand how these kids were still so innocent and happy. So I asked Maman Therese if I could move in. Yes, literally move into an orphanage. I know it sounds kind of absurd, but that's how life works. And I did that. She said yes, and I completely moved in. The experience of living at the orphanage Bumi, it's a joy. You see, how these kids grow up and gain their innocence, it's marvelous. You gotta understand, these kids are abandoned, and some of them had nightmaric stories of abuse, HIV, abandonment. Yet, you wouldn't see it on the kids because the kids remain kids. So, what I did was day by day, just be one of the kids, taking their pictures, eating with them, playing with them, laughing with them. The experience of joy was just, I don't know how to explain it. And that's the hard part. If I have a hard time explaining this with words, imagine with visuals. You know? It's like, for example, Moïse. Moïse never speaks. Okay. And then one day, out of the blue, he comes up to me, he's like, Aydin, je veux un ballon bleu. Like, okay, how do you explain that? The joy you get from that kid, you know? Or for example, okay, some of the realities the kids have to face up to. Abandoned children are called witches. It's a way for the society and the community to dismiss them. If they're witches, therefore it wasn't their parents' fault for abandoning them. When I learned that, it was brutal. So I decided to have a game with them. I was filming them repeating over and over again, they are now witches. They are now witches. Also, they made videos where they forgive their parents. Like, these kids have more maturity than goddamn humanity. They were abandoned, yet they had the courage to say, Mother, Father, it's okay. I forgive you. For abandoning them. Like, I don't know what's more courageous than just that. I want to find a way to like document and represent this power of resilience. I just didn't know how. I was taking beautiful pictures of them, and that's the best I could do, just day in, day out. Live with them, document their happiness, show visuals of them being children. Yet something happened. Something like a kick in the head, which was happening a lot because I had literally kids jumping on me left and right. I found the perfect message. And I found it via a fabric, the pine. The pine is this material used by locals to make local fashion, clothes, bags, dresses, shirts. Now, what's funny is that the fabric, the pine, has its own history. And it was actually made by colonials so the locals don't dress up in a European fashion. But then when the colonists left, the locals kept the fashion, the colors, the pattern, all of it. The irony is that none of it is actually made in Africa. We're talking the whole continent. Most of them come from Indonesia, China, India. The high-end ones come from Netherlands, literally the old colonizers. And I find it so humoristic because this is a product that the locals wear to represent their status in society. So if you can afford the high-end one, you're better off. Yet the children are the actual heritage. And this is where it just clicked in my head. I want to represent these children and their own history and the suffering of their country and the failures of the international humanitarian aids and the abandonment ideology. I want them to be surrounded by what they actually are, the heritage of a country. And that's where We Are the Heritage started. In short, I literally built a studio at the orphanage. I mean, it was chaotic, but it was a studio. And the kids became my models, my assistants. It became a huge playground with kind of expensive toys, which was kind of falling apart left and right because you have 170 kids jumping around everywhere. It's not the most safest place to have a studio. Still, it was brilliant. It was fun. And what I did, I used this fabric to wrap the kids in their heritage. Not only was it fun, the visuals were incredible. The kids just loved it because, again, you have a fool doing fool stuff. They just enjoy having fun with it. And the end results, my God, you guys be the judge of it. Kahiba is the heritage. Sherif is the heritage. Esther is the heritage. Nathalie is the heritage. Sharon is the heritage. And Moise is the heritage. These are just a few samples of the over 300 portraits I took in a 3-year period. And it was crazy because the moment I started sharing it, people loved it. I mean, the project just grew exponentially. And what was beautiful wasn't just the fact that I got likes on Instagram. It was the fact that it brought genuine visibility to the orphanage. It brought visibility, understanding, and also financial money, which is the main purpose of what these kids need. Because it's cute to say that, oh my God, I helped the kid. No, the kids need to eat. And for that, they need money. And somehow art was able to do that directly. The project was so successful, I even expanded it to the north of Congo, working with an organization that was helping ex-child soldiers regain their innocence and become part of society. Now, I don't know anything more vile than taking a child and forcing him to be a soldier. I can't even imagine what they have to witness. Now, imagine surmounting that. Becoming part of your community, becoming something more than what you were forced to become. The power these kids represented, again, being the heritage of their country. And with the same way, all the proceeds went back to the community to help the kids. The project was such a total success. I made art with communities and made sure the children were the force of the project, and all the benefits went back to them. I used art to translate something that was not translatable. Power. The project grew and grew and grew. I had exhibitions, awards, actually multiple awards. Hell, I even met the president of Malta, where she gave me this for being a great humanitarian. And also, that was really weird because I was very drunk and I had my crotch was ripped. Not a story for another time again. Sorry. Yet, as much as I was getting this recognition, I wanted to do more. Because the reality is, working in these environments, bad things do happen. And you feel so weak and useless when they do. especially when it happens to children. Art has so much power, but it also has a way of keeping dreams alive. And this is pretty much a gibberish I'm saying at this point because I don't know. But you see, I met a kid named Michel. Michel exchanged me, he exchanged me this tuna car. He exchanged me this tuna car for a soccer ball. Michel figured that he hustled the white boy. I knew he was hustling me. I was proud of the fact that he was hustling me. It showed like being streetwise. But I saw so much innocence and purity and humanity in this little tuna car. And he saw, I don't know, being a future soccer player as he was kicking the soccer ball. Unfortunately, Michel died. He died from complication of being born HIV positive and malaria. Everything was done to save him. Unfortunately, it's part of human reality. When adults fail, when humanity makes errors, children die. Children should always see tomorrow. Yet Michel is not one of them. I always try to like man up. I don't have the courage to say, you know what? Brush this off, Aydin. You've seen so much violence and war. But I'm bullshitting myself. Michel knew me. I knew Michel. He hustled me for with a tuna car. He trusted me. He posed for me. He hustled me. Children shouldn't have to die. They die because of our errors, the mistakes of adults. I wish kids will never feel pain. I wish kids will not be used in adults' war. I wish kids could just live to adulthood. But I need to be realistic. I'm just an artist. Yet, I feel that I need to do more. Like, everyone should do more to help people who just need help. A camera is a strange thing. It's a black box that lets light in, so that something beautiful is created on a negative. In short, a camera is covered in darkness. Yet, with the click of a button, you create something beautiful via the light that comes in. Humans who live in war and war zones live in darkness. Yet, they are the light that shines for hope. They become the individuals who bring hope for the future. If even some of their lights have been turned off, their essence will still remain. I'm naive and a fool who believes that art will always make a difference and change the world.
On va manger? Il manque un?